Hey guys, how are we going? So today I'm going to run you through some decision making around my programming. Now, these are questions that we get asked a lot, both through myself and through the crew at Lumen. So hopefully this can create some clarity around some of the decision making and thought process that I undertake when designing a program. Now, before I use any online application or program or anything like that, I do actually prefer to do the classic pen and paper. I find for myself, it's way easier to get my thoughts on a bit of pen and paper, and then I can scribble that out, scrunch it up, start again if I need to, before then implementing that across into any sort of online programmer, obviously in this case, Lumen Strength. Now, I did put it out there and asked a few people what are some of the sports that they would really like to see. There was the classic ones that come back, AFL, rugby league, etc. So I thought, well, my background is rugby league, so it's a really nice, easy place for me to start is rugby league, and more specifically in that youth space. So sport is going to be rugby league. Now I'll explain why this becomes important here. Athlete is a fullback, 16 years old, moderate strength training background. Okay, what are the demands of the sport? So I like to start here and basically go like a needs analysis. So demands of the sport, what does the sport require? The demands of the position, what does that position in that sport require, because they can be slightly different. And then finally, what are the athlete's individual needs or individual requirements to excel or succeed in that position based on their own performance testing analysis, injury history, those sorts of things there. So demands of the sport, repeat, sprint ability, high contact, anaerobic driven. Okay. Demands of the position. This is why I prefer pen and paper too, because it doesn't tell me when I spell stuff wrong. Okay, demands of the position. High running volumes. High speed meters, and then probably a third one being its very skill-based position, i.e. being able to read the defense when they are defending at the back, and then be up on ball or hold shape in attack. Okay, demands of the athlete / individual needs. Okay, this is where again you rely back on your performance testing data. Now, without having any performance testing data in front of us, let's just make some assumptions here, because sometimes if we are in a team setting and we don't have access to testing equipment, sometimes this is basically what you're given. You have to make some solid inferences, and then based around those inferences, create some sort of structured program. So basically at 16 years old, we can make some pretty strong assumptions here that he's got low rate of force development. He has low RSI, which is reactive strength index, moderate elastic strength, poor hamstring strength, solid max V with poor acceleration. Okay, now again, I do prefer to write this out, but it still gets a pretty good picture or a bit understanding what's going on here. So we've got our three key things: the demands of the sport, demands of the position, and then individual needs or the demands of the athlete that we're working with. From there, we need to create some sort of schedule on how we're going to fit this in. So in this scenario here, we are actually going to program two different things in limit strength. The first one's going to be our strength days, and then our second one is going to be our on-field speed and conditioning. So how we're going to break that up is day 1, day 2, day 3, and day 4. We're going to use the freeform planner in Lumen Strength when we get to it. So I'll explain what that looks like after. Now, just for the sake of this, we are just going to do a normal split. We're not going to get too technical around having high days, low days, undulating periodization. We're just keeping this nice and simple so we can sort of see how we piece this together in the back end. Okay, so once again, we've gone through our sport, we've got our needs, we've got a rough breakdown here of how we're going to plan out our week. Now, from there, I start to break down what are my key emphases or key focuses. Now, full credit here to Lachlan Wilmot. He's obviously a great friend, but also more importantly, a very good mentor, especially in the early days. He created a bit of a structure, a bit of a system, which I still find works really effectively, pretty much for majority of environments as well, which is why it's actually so successful. And that is basing your strength sessions into some key categories. So for example, we'll have our velocity block. Now we have 1 or 2 exercises in here, which is a V1, V2, potentially a V3 if we're going to chuck in some sort of gait. Now our velocity block is essentially designed to move fast, move explosively, chuck any of our high CNS, high taxing movements in nice and early. From there we have our strength blocks. And we can break these down into main or accessory, but this is absolutely fine for here, which is our A1 and A2. Strength block, B1, B2, accessory block, C1, C2, C3, and resilience block. Again, please excuse the poor typing, but that's why we have autofill, and even in that scenario, it didn't give us what we're after. Great. So now we have a bit of a structure in regards to, we have the demands of the athlete, the sport, but we have a bit of a breakdown in how we might actually start to implement this into our programmer. So this is the template that I like to use. Please feel free to take it. But again, as I said, that came directly from Lachlan himself. So that's a nice little way there that I like to look at for our strength program, which will then start to plug and play in strength in a minute. So that is for our strength and power. And then for on field, for our field, somewhat similar, but we like to use different drill streams or different categories. So we have our prep, which is usually individualized, but we can get to that after. We have our bounce category. So here our bounce is essentially designed to just be nice and elastic. How well do we interact with the ground underneath us? Our switch category and our cycle / projection category. Well, I didn't put category, do I? Now, they are essentially nice ways to start to subcategorize some of the key qualities that we're trying to get out of our athletes. So if it's a max V day, we look at bounce, switch, and cycle drills. And then if it is an acceleration day, we look at bounce, switch, and projection drills. From there, we can then have our main block, which are essentially our key runs or key efforts for the day. And then we can have at the bottom here, additional or optional conditioning to finish it. Let's just call it con because that's way easier, which we throw in down the bottom. Okay, now again, not as pretty if it's written on a bit of paper, but hopefully that there gives us a little bit of understanding around how we can start to pre-plan and organize our gym programs. And the key takeaways are understand the demands of the sport, understand the demands of the position, the individual athlete, have some sort of strength template or strength guideline that we can then utilize in our splits of how many days we're going to utilize the gym and the field. And then the exact same applies for our field or on-field speed and development. Do we have a bit of a structure for that? So again, hopefully that's just a little couple of takeaways we can start to look at there. And let's now dive into utilizing limb and strength.